don't have time to work out, this video will be very helpful for you. My name is Bo Murley, and I'm the CEO of Bo Murley Fitness. And for the last 8+ years at this point, we've coached over 3,000 very successful career-driven women inside our coaching program. And one thing that we often hear is I really struggle finding time to work out and getting to the gym and finding 20, 30 minutes free from work and kids and marriage where I can actually get some type of workout in. And a lot of people think too, like they need to be working out 4 or 5 days a week. And let me start this by sharing a little bit of a story to just kind of paint a picture that sometimes I lose like 5 or 10 pounds by accident. It's happened quite a bit over the years of my life. And most recently in November and December, through a mutual friend, I got a sublet out in Arizona in Scottsdale for about 6-7 weeks. And I went out there, and I obviously didn't drive out. I flew out. I didn't have a car, and lived in an area where the Airbnb was at, where there's just, the gyms and restaurants and places to grab food, grocery stores. I pretty much walked everywhere. And I would say like my nutrition was probably pretty much the same as what it was when I was back home. But definitely like for dinners and stuff, I ended up, going out, eat quite a bit and everything because there was just so many good places. So I would almost say like my nutrition wasn't up to my usual standard, but I dropped 10 pounds in about 6 or 7 weeks. And the only variable that really, really changed was the amount of steps and the activity and the walking that I was getting in on a very consistent basis. I mean, every morning I walked to Starbucks, which was like half a mile away, and I walked back, and the grocery store, the gas station where I'd go to grab a few things. I walked there pretty much every day, every other day. And my steps per day probably doubled or triple compared to what it was back in Omaha, because obviously there was it's cold, it's windy. I don't really walk too many places when I'm back here. And I dropped 8, 9, almost 10 pounds, I believe, in like 6 to 7 weeks. My point of sharing this is that's a lot of what people sleep on is just steps and becoming and identifying as a more active person overall. Because what I find with clients is when they often think of working out, they think of working out in the traditional sense. And that means like in a gym or lifting weights. Now, I want to be very clear. I do believe, especially as a female, like you should be doing some type of resistance training, meaning lifting weights, putting your body under resistance at least 2 or 3 times a week. It's very important just for confidence and maintaining your strength and building muscle. It makes this weight loss journey much easier. You don't want to be this frail and fragile woman in your 50s, 60s, 70s and not be able to carry her own groceries in, right? So I do believe that's very, very important. And we help our clients, find time to get that done, and we hold them accountable to it. But what a lot of people sleep on, and something that we talk a lot about in our program, is just lifestyle-based activity. And what I mean by this is oftentimes our intention is to really empower and motivate women to be self-driven, be self-motivated. We want them to really identify as a very fit and active person that moves a lot. And what we have them doing activity-wise with us, we want them to be able to continue that lifestyle well after working with us. Because one thing that you'll see people who are really fit is like, yeah, they typically, are pretty consistent with their working out, but they're just very active people overall. People are very sedentary anymore. We've had women come to our program like, last week, we brought in a CPA. It's tax season right now. She's sitting like 12 or 14 hours a day, and she's going to the gym, 3 days a week. But it's just not enough movement for her to really get the results that she desires. So what I mean by lifestyle-based activity, and something that you can think about, and something that we do with a client on our onboarding call, or that call we have with them in their first week, is just really look at their day-to-day, their week-to-week life, and look at different areas where we can maybe find some low-hanging fruit to get them to become more active, to get their steps in, to get them moving, because that tends to be more consistent. Going to the gym or, resistance training, like life can happen. We have clients that are traveling all the time. They're in their car. They're, last minute, they have to book a flight for a conference to fill in for somebody. They sometimes spend more time at Marriott's and airports than they do back home. So there's just a lot of chaos and craziness that we have to help them navigate. But if we can at their core and change a woman from within, where she just becomes a more active person and is constantly think about moving her body, getting steps in any chance she gets, it really, really helps as far as weight loss goes. And it also tends to be the most sustainable. So what I mean by this is like really coming in, like I was saying, look at a client's day to day, week to week, and what are some areas where we can just get them to become more active. A lot of women that we work with, one of the big reasons they want to be healthy is they want to be healthy and live a high quality life and live a long life for their kids and then potentially their grandkids someday, right? So like maybe it's like we create with them either on Saturday or Sunday, make a weekend kind of goal for them to take one maybe long walk for 45 minutes or become hike with their kids and dog or something, right? Like that benefits, that's like a win all the way around. It gets them more active, and then you kind of create a family bond and some type of family activity where you're teaching your kids the importance of being active and moving their body, getting in nature for mental health. I think that would be beneficial for most people these days. So that's just one example. We might come in and talk to a client about what are hobbies or rec activities that you've maybe enjoyed in the past, or you've really thought that you might enjoy, but you just haven't been pushed towards it. And for a lot, here recently, pickleball's become very popular. I know we had a client like a month or two ago that in their neighborhood, they have pickleball courts. She thought about playing. And when she came into our program, we're like, go get a paddle. You can get them on Amazon for like $5, get your kids involved and go play pickleball. And they fell in love and they play pickleball like pretty much every night during the week when it's at least nice out, not raining or, crappy weather. And she's dropping weight like crazy. We had another woman, this was a while back, where she had, I believe, two dogs, and she lived in Texas and, good weather year round and stuff. And she's busy with work, and she always thought she had to be plugged in and such. And, she would let her dogs out 2, 3, 4 times a day. And typically she just let them out and they'd go in the yard and, not to get graphic, and she'd just pick up their mess. But, we just talked to her about, she works from home. She was behind a computer 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and her steps were really, really low. And we were talking about it in her neighborhood, it was safe. She had like a little cul-de-sac there, and they had like a little park in the neighborhood that was like half a mile away. So she just made it a habit, and talking to her, again, low hanging fruit, instead of just letting her dogs out and having them do their business. Every time she let them out, she took a quick like 8, 9, 10-minute walk to the park where they went there and then walked back. And it took like 10, 12 minutes. Now, nothing's going to happen work-wise where if you don't reply for 10 or 12 minutes because you're taking a walk, like the world won't end. We had to tell her that. Like it was quite okay. And she took her steps from like 4,000 or 5,000 a day to like 9 or 10 just by incorporating 3 or 4, 10, 12, 15-minute walks throughout the day. So again, something for you to think about, like, yes, with intention, 2, 3 times a week is kind of like the minimum standard. We want clients to do resistance training, and we hold them accountable to that. But I promise you, just identifying as a more fit and active person, think of ways you can get your steps and get your activity up. We work with clients day in, day out, because it adds gas on the fire and in your weight loss journey and just being healthier overall. And especially when you can get in nature, it has an impact on mental health. Like people are very sedentary. We work a lot of clients who sometimes are consistent in going to the gym, but like, it's hit or miss. They'll do well for a couple of weeks, then life, career, travel, something happens. Kids get busy with activities every night and they can't get to the gym. And then they're super inactive. But if we can build some habits and some routines to just get them to be more, active overall, and they really have to start believing themselves and seeing themselves as a very fit and active person. And we've had clients, do pickleball, go on family hikes, sign up for like a women's golf league, and you walk 9 holes once a week, bicycle, play tennis. There's basketball, like there's many different things that you can do. And what we find is a lot of people had hobbies a long time ago, then life, marriage, kids happened and they got away from it, but they still actually really, really enjoy it. And it's just, they needed somebody like a coach in our program to kind of push them to it. Be like, hey, you loved playing like in a female golf league a couple nights a week, 10 years ago, you said, like, why don't you sign up for one now? You said you live near a golf course, go blah, blah, blah. And they do it. And they just needed that little bit of a push that they wouldn't do on their own. And when we have clients become more active, it's amazing what it can do for their results. So the takeaway here is just think at your day to day, your week to week life, ways that you can become more active, ways that you can get more steps in. Think of hobbies or rec activities that you enjoyed a long time ago, but that you just gotten away from, that maybe you can incorporate back into your life on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Think about those things, or maybe things that you've thought you'd really enjoy, but you just never took the plunge to do it. Pickleball, golf, bicycling, whatever the case may be, and push yourself to add that in. And the thing is, over time, if you can become a person who's consistently getting 10, 15,000 steps in, you're moving your body pretty much every single day. When you don't have time to work out, you still tend to get those things done, because weeks can come and go. You might not always get to the gym 3 or 4 days a week, but if you tell your kids and you keep a commitment to go hiking with them every, Sunday after church or whatever, and that becomes kind of a family tradition, you're more or less likely to, you're more or less likely to let your kids and your family down if that becomes a tradition, because it's time to spend with them. You're out in nature, beautiful day after church, whatever the case may be. You tend to keep that commitment because there's other people that have skin in the game as well, versus you going to the gym. There's just less of that. So that said, something to think about, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.